Welcome to the Macros for Life podcast, where we talk all things macros, business, and marriage. We're your hosts, Eve and Randall Guzman. Visit our website at www.gtransformationacademy.com, where you can download our free How to Track Macros guide. This guide has helped over 15,000 people start their macro tracking journey.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Macros for Life podcast. I'm really excited because this is the first time doing an audio recording where I'm going to be talking about macro tracking for beginners. And I mean, like, everything you need to know about getting started with how to track macros. And I'm going to be covering from like what macros are, how to actually calculate your macros, how to track your macros, tips and things like that for all types of goals, whether you guys are focusing on gaining muscle, losing weight, leaning out, or just like learning the basics of nutrition and what to actually do when it's time to decide what is going on your plate. If you have been listening to us for a while, you know that we have a how to track macros guide. You'll be able to find that in the show notes, but I'm also super excited to announce to you guys that we have a new all about macros tracking guide, which is going to be really great, going hand in hand with the podcast that we're doing today. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Obviously, my favorite topic is macro tracking. So what is macro tracking? So tracking macros, counting macros, if it fits your macros, IIFYM, flexible macros, flexible dieting lifestyle. There's so many things for us to call it. But those are going to be the terms that you're going to hear when people are talking about macro tracking. And so when you're thinking about like the difference of what macro tracking is versus some of the other things, you're focusing solely on tracking macronutrients. Macronutrients or macros are going to be the components of the primary building blocks of the body that are helping us with energy. When we eat, we're actually intaking energy. Calories are energy and calories are fuel. And there are three major macros that most of us are consuming, or I should say all of us are probably consuming, even though they're small bits or quantities, depending on what your food choices are. Those three macros are going to be proteins, carbohydrates, and fat. And those three macros are making up the energy or the calories that we are consuming. Each macro has a different profile when we're looking at the energy calories versus how much we're actually weighing out to eat. So your protein is going to have 4 calories for every gram. Your carbs are going to have 4 calories for every gram. And fat is more dense, but we still need it. Fat has 9 calories per gram. So for example, if we were to be weighing out, let's say like 100 grams of chicken breast, that's going to roughly have 22 or 23 grams of protein. Chicken breast is about 99% fat free. So it might be 22 to 23 or 24 grams of protein and maybe a half a gram or like 1 gram of fat. That is something that's mostly protein, but there's a little bit of fat there. If you're looking at like measuring something like peanut butter, which I recommend after this podcast, weigh out some peanut butter and really see what 2 tablespoons is when you're weighing it at like 28 or 30 grams of weight. You're going to end up potentially having maybe 14 grams of fat. There might be 4 or 5 carbs and maybe 5 grams of protein. So peanut butter is something that has all 3 macros. A lot of people think it's mostly protein, but it's actually mostly fat, and protein is the lowest macro that peanut butter actually has. So those are your three macros. You got your protein, your carbs, and your fats. Water is not a macro because it doesn't have any calories. The fourth macro that you will hear people talk about is fiber, but it's really a form of the carbohydrates that we're consuming, which helps us to see what is soluble, what is insoluble. Fiber also helps with cholesterol or digestive tract. Some forms of fiber contain prebiotics, which is great for our gut biome. But the fiber is actually a form of carbohydrates, but it's great to have a gauge on how much we're eating each day to making sure that we're getting a variety of different carbohydrates and we're getting some that are complex and then some that are simple. Your fifth macro that you may hear people talk about is going to be alcohol. Alcohol has calories, but have you ever looked at a bottle of wine and tried to like see the nutrition label? Or maybe you're looking at some vodka, tequila, like whatever's your, choice of drink. When you look at the labels, you will see sometimes there's nothing for nutrition facts and only the percent alcohol, but you may end up seeing, oh, this is 100 calories, and then there's like no protein, carbs, and fats listed. Or you might look at something like a Truly, and then it says like it's 3 carbs. But if you do the math and you break down 100 calories of alcohol, there's not just 3 carbs in there, because when we multiply 3 grams times 4 calories, 3 times 4 is 12. Where are the other 88 calories coming from? And so when you do track alcohol, you need to track it as carbs only, fats only, or carbs and fats, makes basically kind of divvying it between the two, because alcohol does have calories. And let's say you're drinking 300 calories of alcohol one night, and to not track it, we're actually missing the inclusion of those calories, which can affect us if we're trying to lose weight, maintain weight, whatever. But although you track the macros or your calories of alcohol as macros, alcohol acts differently because it's a toxin in the body, and that's a whole other topic. But if you are someone that is going to be consuming alcohol and you want to track it, I definitely recommend the Macros First app. It's free. You can track all of your macros down to the gram. And it also has an alcohol converter, which will take the drinks that you're drinking and then assign them carbs or fats or carbs and fats values as you see that you want to be selecting. And it will do it for you. And it's going to make it so much easier. So again, those are the 3 major macros: protein, carbs, and fats. There are going to be things like broccoli. It's almost all carbs. Bananas, almost all carbs. Tilapia or cod, almost all protein. When you look at tortilla chips, I say that one a lot because I like them. Tortilla chips are going to be fat and they're going to be carbs, and there might be like 1 gram of protein. If you look at something like a bottle of like extra virgin olive oil, it's going to be all fat, no protein and carbs. So some things will have 1 macro, some will have just 2, and some will have all 3. And then you may get all 3 if you're eating a meal where you're mixing in multiple ingredients. But our body does prefer to have all 3 macros. Our body does want to have protein, carbs, and fats. And so to go a little bit further into what the macros function as in our body and where the sources are, starting with protein. Protein is our building block of our body. It helps us with all of our structure of our body, our cells, our organs, our muscles, and the functions of those organs. It helps us in building and repairing and maintaining muscle. Consuming protein is not going to make you fat. Consuming protein is actually going to make you leaner, and you'll have a higher metabolic rate. Protein contains amino acids, which are essential building blocks and enzymes. And those little enzymes in there are like little catalysts that kind of kick off a reaction that we're needing to happen in different places in our body that are just like subconsciously going on that are normal. Protein is also great for us, whether you are plant-based or if you're a meat eater, because protein helps us to balance our blood sugar. And so we don't have these peaks and drops of energy happening all day long. Protein actually slows down the absorption of carbohydrates, which is amazing. So if you ate some Skittles by itself, you'll probably have an energy peak, and then you'll probably crash a little bit later in the afternoon, and then you'll be kind of looking for more energy again. But if you ate the Skittles, let's say with so a cheese stick on the side or a chicken breast, I know this doesn't sound like, appetizing, but if you ate the Skittles with the protein is going to slow down the absorption of the carbs. Your blood sugar is going to be a little bit more stable. You're also going to feel more full. But protein also has a function in signaling to the stomach that we need more stomach acid. Protein is crucial for hormones. So, like when we're thinking about our thyroid, our adrenal glands, our sex hormones, all of that stuff is super important. And protein is also responsible for different components and jobs of our circulatory and blood system to get where they need to be and get the things to the places that they need to be at. Protein definitely can get confused on what sources are when people are thinking about things that are peanut butter and condiments, but protein is mostly going to come from meat and seafood and dairy sources. Those are going to be things like chicken breast, turkey, pork, beef, lamb, bison, deli meat. You guys, I love a good sandwich. Seafood. So we're going to be talking about your shrimp, your fish, and then if you are plant-based, tofu, tempeh, seitan, is that how you say it? Seitan, whatever. I don't know. It tastes good. I'm not plant-based, but I know what that is, and it's made from vital wheat gluten. And dairy, you're thinking about Greek yogurt, no matter the fat level, cottage cheese, and then kind of like at the bottom, not at the bottom, but people think to get protein, they have to have it. When you don't have these other protein sources, you can drink a protein powder. So not at the bottom, but like try to get natural sources of protein. Carbohydrates are probably a fan for everybody. We love them. They taste good. Our body craves them. And that's because carbohydrates are our body's preferred source of energy. Our immune system wants carbohydrates as energy when we're fighting off infections. Our brain needs carbohydrates to think. Our thyroid needs carbohydrates to create more thyroid hormone, which make our metabolism higher. So going low in carbs can actually slow your metabolism down. We also need it for different components of our blood. I know that doesn't seem important for you, but our red blood cells are going to be helping with hemoglobin and oxygenation. Also with iron, we need that to feel our best. White blood cells, we need them to attack things when we're having infections, and also keep our immune system high, making sure we have the right viscosity or like thickness of our blood. Things we don't think about, but carbohydrates help with that. Carbs are where we're going to be getting fiber, prebiotics, probiotics. We need those to keep our gut healthy. So we're going to the bathroom every day, like number twoing every day. And carbs can also be a great source of vitamins and minerals because people forget that fruits and vegetables are carbohydrates. And we need the bulk from fruits and vegetables and grains and things with fiber that help to move waste out of our body, which is like our natural detox system. So we're going to be detoxing by things getting through and going out of our gut. And then our liver also does a great job of detoxifying our system. We're regenerating fresh blood cells every 120 days. We need carbohydrates. So those are going to come from like your bread. I love sandwiches. Bread, your potatoes, also your fruits, your veggie, pasta, oats, oatmeal, if you're sweetening things with honey or syrup or agave, if you like a granola mix, like those things are in there. But fruits and vegetables, you guys, are a carbohydrate. I didn't know that growing up. They didn't teach that in middle school. But we're teaching you today a lot of the things that you guys did not know or were taught in middle school. The last macro is going to be fat. Fat is also powerful because it helps with us getting the vitamins we need to the places that they need to be in our body and hormone production. Those are some of the biggest things, and then our gut health. So there are vitamins that we take in a supplement, or we're eating in our fruits and our veggies and our other carbs and grains, and even things that are coming in smaller quantities from seafood and stuff. But there are vitamins that are fat soluble. And so us consuming enough fat is helping transport and helping us absorb those vitamins the way that we need. A big one that is typically lower in women. We see it a lot with women who are struggling to lose weight. It's going to be vitamin D. You've got potassium, your vitamin A, and your E. Those are fat soluble. We need fat in our daily consumption of food to have those things be absorbed the way that they need. We're also needing fat for regular digestion. I'm not going to get gross about it, but like fats kind of like lubricate things. So you do the math. But also, fat is great because it helps with production of hormones that we need. And so, women having the right amount of progesterone and estrogen, men testosterone, and then other hormones that are like firing off other processes that are happening in the body. Like we need that. We also need fat to create cell membranes and linings of organs that are also protecting us outside of protein, helping with structure. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, and fat is also a energy source, and fats can be really great when we have long stretches of activity. So let's say, like, I can actually give you an example. This morning, we ended up putting rock and gravel in our backyard, in our front yard, and it took like 2 hours. Fat is a macro that can help get through those longer activities because sometimes they can be a little bit slower digesting. Fats are going to come from your different types of oil. I like coconut oil in some things, olive oil, avocado oil, macadamia nut oil. Also, like your butters, your different nut butters will have some fats in them. Avocado, super tasty. And then you're going to have high amounts of fat in other things that we put in things we eat. And so that's going to be like eggs. The yolk of an egg, lots of fat. Bacon, self-explanatory. Cheese is almost an equal ratio, depending on the cheese sometimes, with protein and fat. So those are our three major macros: your protein, your carbohydrates, and your fats. Now, what do I do with them when I'm tracking? That's what you're wanting to know today. So when we're tracking macros, it truly just means that we are tracking and logging the food that we're eating, typically in an app like Macros First, and we're looking at the breakdown or the totals of the protein for the day, the totals of our carbohydrates for the day, and our total of our fats for the day. So we're looking to see the breakdown, and we're setting a goal of what we want those totals to get to. So when you're new to tracking, you're probably just seeing like, okay, where am I falling? But eventually you'll have a goal of like, I want this much protein per day. The goal each day is for carbs. The goal each day is for fat. Like that is what we're doing. And this is aware eating because all calories are not created equal. Counting calories and macros, like when you count one, you're counting the other. You're just focusing on the numbers adding up for one thing over another. So if you're a calorie tracker, go ahead and look back in your tracking app. The calories are there, but there's probably a screen you can go to and see what the macros are, and then see like, what have I actually been averaging when I eat 2,000 calories? When you're tracking macros, those grams of protein, carbs, and fats are adding up to a total goal of calories every single day. So when you track one, you're tracking the other. You're just switching the focus on where the totals are. So if you grew up as a calorie tracker, you did 1,200 calorie diet or 1,500 calorie diet, you were tracking your macros too. You just weren't looking at the total number. It just wasn't important to you at the time. And so when you count calories, you are controlling how much energy is going into your body each day, which at the end of the day is going to have an impact on your weight. If you're eating exactly what you need, you'll maintain. If you eat more than what you need, you'll gain. If you eat less than what you need, then you're going to lose weight. But quality is important. Quantity is important, but quality can also be more important. So when we switch from calorie tracking to macro tracking, we're looking at the quality of the calories. Where are my 2,000 calories going? Are my 2,000 calories just Starburst, bagels with cream cheese, and Cheez-Its? You can do that. You can eat junk food all day and lose weight. If you're eating below what you need, but you're not going to feel as good. Your body composition might be skinny fat. You may not have any visible muscle. You may not be strong. You may have crashes of energy. You may be craving caffeine to keep you awake because your macros are not balanced. On the flip side, you can eat 2,000 calories of whole and super nutritious foods, which are going to make you feel better, look better, perform better, help to reverse aging, and you're definitely going to feel your best. So food quality matters, and we get that by looking at macros. Calorie tracking alone will not help us focus on where our food sources are actually coming from. And so when we have a goal with macros, our macros, protein, carbs, and fats start to work in synergy with each other so we can actually chase after optimal health because we have direction of where our calories are coming from. And so that's going to help with our energy, with our blood sugar balance, our digestion, our body composition, even just the way we handle illnesses and bounce back from like me helping move gravel this morning is like a big, big thing. All right, so let's get to the tracking part and then what your macros are. So two things you're going to need to track macros. You're going to need a food scale. If you don't have one, just DM me. I'll send you a link for one on Amazon. That's about $10, but you need to get away from guessing portions and measuring cups. Now is the time to grow up, and we're going to have to get you a food scale. $10 investment, easy. And then the next investment is for free, and I recommend a food tracking app. I'll put down in the show notes the link to get Macros First. It is the best tracking app out there. I no longer use MyFitnessPal. We ditched that thing like a year and a half ago. Macros First has the most functionality for people that are wanting to get more optimization of how they are viewing their macros each day. It's way easier to track. It's flexible. It helps you pick the portions better, has a great food database, and it's free. You don't have to pay to set your macros down to the gram. So I definitely recommend getting a food scale and then using the Macros First app. Next, where do we start? So we do have a podcast on how to calculate your calories. Definitely go check out that podcast because you will need the calories to put into the app to get you where you need to be. Or you can go to a TDEE calculator online where you're going to be putting in stats about yourself. It won't be able to know like your dieting history, but you can use a TDEE calculator or listen to our podcast on how to calculate your starting macros to get, or how to calculate your calories for weight loss, weight gain, or whatever, so you can have that starting number. If you need more help, just reach out to us. We do one-on-one coaching. We do custom macro calculations where they are going to be an awesome fit based off of your dieting history, your body composition, your goals, and all of those things. And so I recommend finding your maintenance calories, which is your total daily energy expenditure, and setting that number first in your tracking app and track those numbers for 2 to 4 weeks, because maintenance calories or your TDEE is a range. We want to find out, are you on the low end, the high end, in the middle? And you definitely have to track over time to see where you actually are before you make adjustments to shoot towards weight gain or to shoot towards weight loss. Okay, cool. There are online calculators, but I will tell you to proceed with caution. You can go to 7 of them today. You're going to get numbers all over the place. I recommend getting your numbers from a macro coach. Again, that's something that we can help with. But if you calculate your total daily energy expenditure, I can definitely get you started in the right direction of where your protein goal needs to be so that you can start making an adjustment from there. I recommend starting at 0.7 grams of protein per pound of the body weight that you actually weigh. So if you weigh 150 pounds, take 150 times 0.7. That should be the number you put in the tracking app, along with the calories of your total daily energy expenditure. Start with calories and protein only and start tracking for 2 weeks. Track everything: bites, licks, taste. Use a food scale. You want to have exactness. You want to have precision. Do that for at least 2 weeks, and then you can adjust your total calories based off of how you feel. I want you to look at the trends on how you feel when your carbs are a certain number, when your fat is a certain number, but focus starting on that protein goal and that calorie goal only before making adjustments. If you're wanting to lose weight, start with a 10% calorie deficit after a few weeks under your total daily energy expenditure. Again, track for a couple of weeks and then decide if you're not losing weight to bring those calories down a little bit lower. If you are wanting to gain weight, I recommend that you're eating 5 to 10% above your total daily energy expenditure or maintenance calories for weight gain. Don't push higher than that because most research is now showing that, yes, you'll put on more weight faster if your calories are higher above your total daily energy expenditure, but those people also look to be gaining more unwanted fat than those that are staying under a 10% surplus over their total daily energy expenditure. Some of my recommendations for starting out tracking macros are to make your plates easy with protein, carbs, and fats only. And I mean protein, carbs, and vegetables only, and making a plate that has protein, carbs, veggies, log that, and then go back and add sauces and other things like that. I recommend that 80% of your meals be cooked at home when you're learning how to track. Pre-logging your food each day, only estimating when you're eating out, and then making sure that you're tracking macros. Definitely check out some of our podcasts on how to prep for your macro goals. I do talk about our 222 method, where I recommend consuming or creating 2 proteins for your meal prep, 2 carbs, 2 veggies, and that's it, because the rest of the stuff could potentially go to waste. But keep your meals on repeat. Keep them simple. Stay with 2 different kinds of breakfast, 2 different types of lunch, maybe dinners where you play around. Don't use a ton of recipes in the beginning, and then just focus on being consistent and tracking everything similarly. And then also, making sure that you're using the food scale for your best accuracy. Again, in the show notes, I'm going to put some links down there to the Macros First app, also to the How to Track Macros guide and the All About Macros guide if you guys want to come back to this podcast, replay it, and then whip out the guide and kind of follow everything step by step. If you guys have more questions about macro tracking as a beginner, just shoot me a DM at Eve Guzman Official, or any other topics that you are wanting to learn about on our podcast. Thank you so much, you guys. Please like, share, and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next podcast.
Thanks for listening to our podcast today. Make sure you like, share, and tag us on Instagram. Also, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss future episodes. In the meantime, be healthy and get wealthy.